Hi, sports fans. It's me. It's Debbie. So it's Thursday, and what time is it? Let's see. Ooh, I think it's 2:30. It's right about 2:30, and it's Thursday. And in the Pacific Northwest, it is an absolutely gorgeous day. Excuse me, just a gorgeous day. And I changed my niche again. I swear I change my niche more than I change socks, but I had to change my niche back to what it was. Making money online is not a scam, and it really is a doable thing, and that is what I'm going to do. But the topic of my of the platforms that I'm on is what I'm really doing, and it's something that I know a lot about, and it's something that I'm struggling with, and it's something that I know for a fact other people are also struggling with, other women, and the men that live with us. And I'm talking about menopause, and not just regular menopause. I'm talking about early menopause, surgical menopause, without the benefit of being able to use hormones. So I'm not going to make this a really long video. It seems like the longer the video is like 25 minutes. I did my last video I did, it had one view. And it was like 30 minutes long. And I think either the thumbnail wasn't interesting. It's got like a black and it's got a gear and a hummingbird. It just didn't make much sense. It did to me at the time, but it was like changing gears type of thing. But I thought, I'm just gonna I don't want to script these. I just want to be real and right to the point and just talk and, just show you who this is, who I am, and this is how I would talk to myself or I would talk to a friend or anybody else. And I do talk to myself. My whole life, I'm 56 years old. I don't have children by my own choice. My whole life, not a normal childhood, very dysfunctional, a lot of domestic. I witnessed lots of things that a small kid shouldn't. I've always been also super duper high strung. There's a picture of me when I was about 4, picking. Kids should not be picking or biting their nails and fingers at that age, at 4. So it's like there was a lot of domestic violence at home. Alcoholic father, majorly codependent mother, and who just didn't mind fighting with my dad and standing up toe to toe, even though bad things happened as a result of that. I had an older brother, I still do, and he abused me. He thumped on me pretty good. He just never liked me growing up. I was always an embarrassment to him. Nothing I ever did was good enough. Buying a new car, buying a home. I did these things even before he did. Maybe he was jealous, but I never did anything to deserve that. And there's some stories I'll probably talk about him later. But there's some things that he did that were pretty like mind screwing games. And they're just why you would do that to your little sister as an adult male, 8 years older. Why you would set someone up like that to fail is beyond me. But there's some couple of different things that affected my life big time, like for years. But as any those of you who've ever been in that kind of an environment know, we find a way to survive. We have to. And so I did. And I tried to do things differently. My mom didn't get her driver's license till she was 38. Had a drink of wine to relax before the test. Really? Anyway, but yeah, I decided that I was going to do things differently than my mom. As I went out and got my license, as soon as I could. 15 learner's permit, 16 driver's test, and I told myself I was never going to be with somebody who abused me, and I was never going to be with somebody who drank, and I haven't. I have a really good husband. He does not drink at all. He has never laid a hand on me. We don't argue. We used to, but we don't argue anymore. He's never physically harmed me in any way, and he's very, very loving, very, very supportive. I couldn't ask for a better husband. He's a really, really, I can honestly tell you, he's a really, really good guy. He just is. So, my whole life, going through that, I've been through a marriage. I've been through a divorce, which just crushed me. Um, I've had problems with addiction. Um, it's well under control. They say, in remission or whatever. Not remission, but no, I've got pretty good control over it, and it's something in my past. And the thing that I'm dealing with right now is surgical menopause, and it's something that's bad enough to have made it that I can't work. I mean, and I'm not a wimp. I'm not a pussy. Um, I can't work. It's just how bad it got. And my work environment was awful to go with it. But the two things together, it was just, I just couldn't do it. Not the same kind of work. I can work, but I would have to be trained to do something else. And I'm just not really sure what that's going to be. So I've been trying out this, trying to make a living online, either working remotely from home or affiliate marketing, digital marketing, monetizing a blog, stuff like this. I do have a blog. It's got other stuff on there about making money online. It's got my first blog on the surgical menopause, and you can visit that at it's www.debbiesdomain.com. Just like it sounds, no uppercase. Everything's just lowercase. It's DEBBIES and domain DOMAIN.com. And takes you to my blog. And like I said, it's just got the one blog about surgical menopause, but there's more to come. So, I had normal cycles. Started having them when I was 12, and had normal cycles all my life. It was actually I was very, very healthy. I had, PAPs when you were supposed to, and I was on birth control for the most part, um, to regulate my periods, and because I didn't want to get pregnant. And I mean, I really didn't want to get pregnant. I didn't want to have one of those, oops, oh, I really didn't want to have kids. And so I really made sure that I didn't. It was very, I always knew about, like, if I take antibiotics, I knew that when you take those, you have to use a backup method with your birth control because it can mess with the effectiveness of them. Um, so, things like that were, just that's just the way it was for me. And so didn't have kids and had my cycles were always normal. And then as I got a little bit older, probably in my early 40s, they started kind of becoming a little irregular. They were getting I was having longer days of bleeding, and they were becoming more painful. And this went on for a bit, and it just kept getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse. So probably like mid to getting into my later 40s, it was so bad. A couple different times I remember calling a coworker once into the bathroom and my husband another time because it was literally streaming and not stopping. Now that was quite scary. So I didn't know it at the time, but I had a prolapsed fibroid, and I basically had one that was attached way up at the top. You got your uterus, and it's attached way up here, and it's a pedunculated, which means a pendulum. Think of a pendulum. So it's got this long stalk. It's attached at the top, and it's come all the way out past the cervix. It's trying to come out, right? And I had no idea. And I asked the doctor when she found it. She goes, "Well, I had to have emergency surgery that next morning." And she said, "Well," I said, "What if I would have plucked it out?" She said, "Well, you would have bled to death. The stalk on these things are like big as my finger, and it's like an artery. You cut that thing open, and you'll bleed out quickly." So I had that, and I felt wonderful. God, I had no idea that I'd been feeling so bad and what this had been doing. It just, bright red and just a lot of it. And believe it or not, all that time, I never was anemic. Just a borderline, a little bit borderline. But I mean, women, we can really go through the shit and still be okay. It's amazing what the body can go through and still be okay. So the only problem I had with my cycles is I had really, really bad PMS. Bad. I was actually diagnosed with, I think it's called PMDD, premenstrual dysthymic disorder or something like that. Oh, it was horrible. I would take on anybody. I didn't care. It didn't care who. I didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter who you were. I didn't even care if I got my ass kicked. It just didn't matter. I've done damage to vehicles, the way I drive. I mean, just crazy shit, just crazy stuff. And I knew I was PMSing. I knew it and couldn't do anything about it. I knew what was happening. I knew it would go away. I knew it would pass. It just, nothing would stop it. Nothing would change that. So anyways, I'm getting older, and I'm starting to have some fibroids, some issues. And so we want to see if that's what it is. So I had a couple of, they call them transvaginal ultrasounds, had a couple of those done. Couldn't even find one of my ovaries. Like, okay, they're both there, but couldn't really see anything out of the ordinary. And then I had a DNC, nothing out of the ordinary there. And finally, the bleeding just got so bad, and I had tried so many different hormonal therapies to try to stop it. I was on the mini pill, the progestin only, for a long time. And that helped somewhat, but it just got to the point where nothing was working. I was having cramps that were so bad. I mean, I haven't been that's it's I'm pretty good with pain. I think I have a fairly decent pain tolerance. And it would just feel like the pressure. It just felt like everything was going to fall out of me onto the floor. It was incredible. I remember I had to go to a meeting with one of my coworkers at a town, and I was riding in her brand new truck. And she had like, there was white seats. They were kind of cloth, like a light color. I was like, oh, and then everything was fine on the way there. On the way back, I started getting cramps. I thought, oh my God, I actually had to sit on a towel all the way home and in excruciating pain because I couldn't do anything but just sit there in this truck until we got to where I could get into my car and go home. And it was awful because I didn't want to go through her stuff, and oh, it was awful. I mean, it got to the point where I had to bring a change of clothes with me, and I actually had to use it once. It was just, going every 20 minutes, you run back to the bathroom and put all your stuff on and come back up. And within literally 15, 20 minutes later, you've just soaked through everything and it's starting to come through your pants. It's like, oh my God, here I am, like 40, 47, 46 years old. So I go and decide that, okay, I've done everything. We've been through all the hormonal therapies and different things that I can do. I was a smoker at that time. I quit 2 years ago, 3 years in November. But so they couldn't really give me super strong birth control pills or hormones because they were afraid of blood clots and heart problems and all that. So I decided I wanted to have a hysterectomy. My husband, his job that he's at now, he got a really good job. It's really good insurance, just a real good job. And so I had insurance where I worked too. So we were doubly covered. And I thought, what better time to have a hysterectomy? So we did. Saw the, got the okay, got the prior authorization, had done enough of the other stuff that, yeah, we could see that a hysterectomy is needed. So went to have that done. Did not want my ovaries taken out because I didn't want to go into early menopause. I had no idea what surgical menopause was. I'd heard of it and heard that you really don't want to do it. Okay. But I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. I thought I was having hot flashes. Turns out I was having more like hot flushes with a lot of sweating. I think I have hyperhidrosis. And all that means is excessive sweating. It's gross, I know, and I'm doing stuff to take care of it. But it's just, who wants to be hot and sweaty all the freaking time? Not me. So anyway, I have the hysterectomy on November 8th. Yes, November 8th, 2019. Thank God we had it done then because COVID was right around the corner. But had that done, and I remember in the recovery room, she said that she found something. And I was totally out of it. They dope you up on fentanyl and all kinds of stuff. And instead of taking it out vaginally, like we discussed, she had to take it out through my stomach. So I had incisions there, I was in quite a bit of pain. And she said that my uterus, even though I've never had kids, because it was too bulky, and so I had to bring it out. I'm glad they did it that way because there was a tumor on the back of my cervix, kind of like back and behind, and it had never been picked up on any of the ultrasounds that I'd had. The DNC, she didn't see it. When the gal did got the prolapse fibroid, that wasn't seen then. So maybe it was new, I don't know. But that's what it was. So they couldn't tell whether it was a cancerous or not, because if it would have been obvious it was cancer, she would have taken my ovaries out right then. We discussed it. If anything happened, do what you got to do. But they couldn't tell. She goes, we kept you open for quite a while waiting to see what that was. And she goes, and I looked around in there and I didn't see anything else. Everything else looked fine. So go to my post-op, and they're being a little bit nicer to me than they normally would, but I was never called beforehand to say, hey, bring somebody with you or, something like that. No. So I figured it's all good. Yeah. You can't assume anything. So I go in there and we're talking a little bit, and she mentions, I hear her saying 90% survival rate. I'm like, what? I said, oh, I love medical stuff, all things medical. I can watch videos. I can watch surgeries all day long. I love it. Surgeries and just, I don't know. It's like watching people get fixed, facial surgery, not really plastic surgery, but just, I don't know. I've always been fascinated by diseases, epidemiology, the plagues, different things like that. Just very, very interested. And also I know a lot about medications And I remember looking at green health books. My mom had this really thick health book when I was really little, like 3 or 4 years old. I started reading very early. And I would flip through this book, and like every 15, 20 pages, it would have a picture, a black and white picture of somebody that had something wrong with them. Like one was a lady had a goiter or whatever, thyroid. And then it would have a case study. And I would just go through this book and just read those. I loved it, even being that young. So when she said 90% survival rate, I was like, oh. And then she said sarcoma. I said, oh my God. I looked at her. I said, you just told me I have cancer, didn't you? Well, Debbie, she goes, it's slow grade. I went, oh my God. And of course, the tunnel vision, you just everything else shuts off in the world, and all you hear is that. And you just became one of those people that you've read their story on YouTube or heard about. You're now one of them. It happens that fast. It happens that fast. You never know. You just never know. I had no idea that I had that. I figured I had fibroids. That was it. We never figured that I had cancer. Well, it turns out I did. And low grade endometrial stromal sarcoma, thank God it was low grade. High grade's a different story, it's a different animal. So I had to have my ovaries removed. So on December 18th, about 5 weeks later, I went in for a second surgery at a different hospital with the Da Vinci robot, and he removed my ovaries. And he said they were great. That came back fine. I had my first hot flash in the recovery room from that second surgery. And that's when I knew that the hot flashes that I thought I was having before, no, those weren't. I had my first one. Um, Surgical menopause has taken me by absolute surprise and taken me by storm. It's just, I cannot tell you how it has affected my life. And that's why I've changed my niche back to it. I used to be on this before and I thought nobody was interested. You know what? I know there's other women. I know that there's other people, you watching this. I know. I see you. I know. I know. I cannot be the only one who's going through this. I cannot be the only one who has these kind of hot flashes. Okay. I don't remember the lady's name, but just recently here, I read a book about a woman. She wrote a book anyway. She's a gynecologist. She's been one for over 20 years, and she wrote a book. And in this book, she talked about when she was a doctor and how she did her residency. And they would talk about how, oh, you have a WW in the waiting room. You go get her. We'll let her get them. A WW. A WW was a whiny woman. And in the book, she said that now she's absolutely ashamed of the fact that she used to kind of play into that. It wasn't a whiny woman. These whiny women were women that were going through menopause, and may not even have known it, that the symptoms that they had. And so this lady rattled off about, I don't know, anywhere, I'm going to say about 40 different symptoms that filled the whole page. And I thought, oh my God, did you know that menopause can higher your likelihood of having a kidney stone? I didn't know that surgical menopause can cause tinnitus, ringing in the ears. Yeah, it's happening right now as we speak. This has been going on now for probably the last year. I've been in surgical menopause for almost 5 years. Yeah. They did the x-ray after they took my ovaries. They took another x-ray to make sure that this cancer hadn't spread into my lungs, because that's where it likes to go. Turned out my cancer was only stage 1, maybe even stage 0. I think I caught it very, very early. And I believe it was cured surgically. They want me to take a Arimidex, but from the very beginning, I said no, because a Arimidex and an estrogen blocker has all the side effects of menopause. Okay. And I couldn't imagine taking a medication for 10 years for a cancer that I don't know if it's going to come back. He says it recurs, and it might. And maybe if it does, I will take the medicine then. But the kind of cancer I had wasn't treated with, the first line treatment for it is surgery, is to take out take out the parts that are causing the problem. It hadn't spread at all. And, the Arimidex, he wanted me to take that for 10 years. And that would be 10 years of horrible hot flashes, aching joint pain, all the other things that come with your estrogen being blocked. Well, I think my estrogen is already pretty much blocked because I feel like shit most of the time. I'm working on this now, and this is going to stop. It's going to stop because I'm going to stop it. This is just unacceptable. Our health system doesn't know enough about menopause. It doesn't know enough about surgical menopause. And I think too many women have been pushed aside, not knowing, all these different things that they're having. They're not crazy, okay? And they really are having them. They're not hypochondriacs. I can't tell you the myriad of symptoms that I have throughout a day and the way they change. I mean, sometimes I feel like a hypochondriac. It's like, God dang. Um, Tinnitus, ringing in the ears, um, the brain fog, the forgetfulness. And my hot flashes are not just your run of the mill. They're not, and with surgical menopause, your menopause starts like that. Okay, there's no gradual kind of getting into it a little bit, and then it gets worse and worse. It is just one day you're not, and the next day you're full on having menopause. Period. And it's just all at you, all in your face, and it is really hard to come to grips with. It's really hard to do. Um, my husband, poor guy, he said, Debbie, it's going to be your year when I got my hysterectomy. It's going to be your year. And it's like, well, it didn't turn out to be my year. It turned out to be one of the worst years I've ever had. Real quick, I had an X-ray to make sure it hadn't spread to my lungs, and it hadn't. My lungs were clear, thank God, even though I smoked at the time. And but they did find pancreatic cysts. Now that scares the absolute shit right out of me. Seriously. I had a friend that died last October from pancreatic cancer. It's it's not a pretty one. It's one of the more painful cancers, and I've had some little symptoms, little odd symptoms, and I asked to have a CA-19 done, a blood test, which actually came back with a marker value of cancer. You can have, especially in a smoker or a former smoker, you can have a level of 5 or under and you'll be okay. Mine was an 8.3. And that, it scares me to have any kind of value at all. And so I wonder, pancreatic cancer? Really hope not. I really hope not, because that just, yeah, it really scares me. I probably would not do chemo. If I caught it early, maybe. But, show me somebody that's lived with, stage 4. I mean, I'm sure they're out there because there's 4%, but it's one of those ones that I don't know if I would fight, depending on what stage, if I even had it. So let's just not go there. But yeah, the symptoms, the hot flashes I have they're epic. You kind of have this feeling. Sometimes I'll get a couple seconds warning before it comes on. And it's almost like a feeling of impending doom. It's just like your whole body just kind of goes, just everything comes to a halt. And you can just feel it. It's this uncomfortable feeling like something bad's wrong, something's going to happen, something really bad's going to happen. And my scalp will crawl. I'll get nauseated. I will get dizzy, kind of lightheaded. Um, and and then it hits. Then you can feel in this area and in your chest and arms, it just feels like a glow heater is coming on inside of you. It is really hard to explain. And they're stifling hot, just stifling hot. You just can't sit there and do nothing. You've got to have some wind on you. You've got to go walk towards some wind. You've got to go into a cooler. You've got to get some air. You've got to do something. You just can't stand there. I've tried to stand there and just kind of power through one. It is hard. It is hard. I don't even know if I've ever quite succeeded at it. I tried. It's like, oh God. And I tried to work like this for about 3.5 years after my surgery. I got to the point where coworkers were looking at me like, are you okay? You need to sit down. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I do actually. I feel like I'm going to fall down. I had to drink so much water. I would drink water all day long and not pee because I was sweating all day long. Any kind of activity, if I put myself under any kind of a load, like picking things up, getting in a hurry, that'll do it. If I have any kind of reaction to anything, whether it be getting angry, laughing, being happy, any kind of an emotion will bring on a hot flash. Eating anything with sugar in it would bring on a hot flash. And I've tried all kinds of supplements. I've tried all kinds of tinctures. I really don't want to take prescription medication. I know there's a new one out that might help with that. I was told by the doctors that, give it about 2 years and then your body should start to figure out what the deal is. and kind of self-regulate a little bit after 2 years. Well, we're going on 5. And so, I had my other niche that I was working on with the making money online, and I prayed about it. And every time I say a prayer, every time I pray about something when I'm really at my wit's end and I just can't understand something or I can't figure it out, I pray. And when I pray, I get answers. I get real answers. I ask for answers. I ask to be shown in a not so subtle way. So I prayed and I said, please don't give me cancer or something. Nothing bad. The last time I prayed about my friend's death, something really, our entire length of our bank over our driveway, which is a very long driveway. I mean, trees fell within 3 hours. This big thing happened. Nothing like that had ever happened before. There'd been no storm or nothing, but I got my answer. It was definitely an answer because I asked to have an obvious answer to what I was asking. So I asked, can you help me with my niche? I just don't know. I need to be able to help people and to serve people, but I just need to make sure it's the right one. Ever since I prayed that little prayer, up until a couple days ago when I made the decision, my hot flashes have been exponentially worse, and just surgical menopause in general has been worse. The day before I finally made my decision about what niche I was going to be in for good, and I counted them, I had about at least 25 hot flashes that day. I've had maybe 15 to 20 at the most. I have never had a day where I had that many hot flashes. I spent my entire day back in my bedroom with a fan on. I just couldn't even leave the room. I leave the room, I come into my kitchen, and just start having flashes from getting up and walking. It was absolutely out of this world. I said, you know what? I know what my niche is going to be because I know there's other people suffering like this, and I need to connect with them, and I need to see if I can help them. So that's it. And that's my niche. I also stated on my blog that I'm switching gears and that's what I'm going to do. So if you would like to go visit my blog, that would be great. Please subscribe. It needs some new subscribers. That would just make my day if you could go see it. And there's only one post about surgical menopause. There's all kinds of posts about making money online. In the courses part, there's a tab on my blog. In the courses, there is a free guide in there if you want to pick up about surgical menopause and about if you're ever thinking about having a surgery or hysterectomy and you're not sure, it tells you about all the different procedures and what they are and what can happen as a result of. So, and I'll give you the thing for it now. The address is www.debrethwish.com/checklist. So, and it's DEBRETHWISH.com/checklist. And so it's about surgical menopause and hysterectomy. So yeah, subscribe to my channel. I'll put the 2 links down on the YouTube video, the debbiesdomain.com, and go on this journey with me. I know you're out there. I know you are. And if you're suffering, you're not alone. Please know that you are not alone. You are not the only one suffering. And I'm sure there are women out there that are a lot worse than me, but I got it over on some of you. Surgical menopause or early menopause is not for the faint of heart. And to the women that are going through it, I have a lot of respect for you and I understand. So hope you have a good day. And I will make another YouTube video in a few days. Bye.